Oh, hey, hello, and welcome to the Sharpsville Garage channel. I really appreciate you taking the time to check it out. And you know, today you're making history because this is the first video on this channel. You know, most of my life I've been a do-it-yourselfer, and that's the basic theme behind Sharpsville Garage is do-it-yourself. I'd been thinking about starting this channel for quite a while, but after doing the work on this building, then I decided to go ahead and do it. This building is about 1.5 years old. The living space is behind me and I'm standing in the garage area. And while I was working on the living space, I decided that I wanted the interior of this garage to look like an old building. And that's why you see this brick behind me. Some of what I've done in here, I believe, is a little unique. And while I was investigating the tools and materials to use on the internet, I really didn't find that much information available that I could use. So the beginning of this channel are going to be videos on how I did the details of the various improvements in here. But first, what I wanted to do was to give you a brief tour of the interior here so you can see what's been done and what's left to do. You get a good idea of how this whole interior is going to look by the way this wall looks here. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, well, here's the wall that I was just standing in front of. And let's start at the bottom here. There's the baseboard, which is one of the things I mentioned I think is a little unique. It's made out of concrete, and each of those pieces is about 24 inches wide. It's 4 inches tall and about 1 1/8 inches thick. And then you go up from the wall, there's about 8 foot of brick. And then you get to this, which I call a wire chase. And it's, what's shown here is 3 pieces of 1x6. The top and bottom are painted and stained, and then the back one is, they're all screwed together. In the back, it's screw through that and mount it to the wall. And where I got the idea from this is that the reason I painted it and stained it, and what's missing first is there's a piece that goes between the 2 boards. It's going to be painted and stained too, and it's going to be recessed back a little bit from the front. And so I wanted it to resemble an I-beam. And I saw on an old building, it was a storefront, and they had an I-beam running between the first and second floor when you look at the front, the facade of the building. And in that center piece, they had these starburst or flower bursts, I'm not sure what they're called, but these decorative pieces about every 2 or 3 feet. So I'm going to try to incorporate that in the centerpiece. But so what's missing is that centerpiece, painted and stained, and then, you know, I think that's, without putting an I-beam in there, that's about as close as I'm going to be able to get to it. But so that's the decorative part of it. But the functional part of it, you can see the wire in there, is I'm going to run the electrical through this. And if you look over there, down the wall, there's the breaker panel. Conduit goes up, and then you can see some other wires and junction boxes in there. And so this is going, I don't have it all the way around the building, but pretty far, all the way down this wall. And so the nice thing about it is, like this right here, you can see how the wire goes up through a hole in the top piece of the wire chase. And then there's some conduit, which I've spray painted. It's kind of a 3-step process, but I wanted it to look old and kind of weathered a little bit. So the conduit is in that hole in the top of the wire chase, and it goes up, and then you can see that it changes to the white conduit on the ceiling, and that supplies the power for the lights. So this wire chase makes it real easy to add circuits, outlets, power for lights, whatever, if you need to go up or you need to go down. And I'll show you a couple examples of switches and outlets. But also at the top there, that tube and then these reflectors, that's a radiant tube heater. And I have 2 of them in this building. But then behind it is old corrugated metal that I bought off a guy. It came off a barn. And so this is the way that all the walls are going to look in here from the floor, you have the concrete baseboard, and then the brick and the wire chase, and then the corrugated metal up to the ceiling. And well, here's the wall sink that I bought. It's an old cast iron wall sink, and when I got it, I have a video on this and installing it, so you'll see some pictures of what it looked like when I got it. But the finish on it was pretty beat up and everything. You could tell it had been used, but it was still structurally very, very good shape. So I had it mounted, and I was using it. And then when I put the brick up, you start from the bottom and go up. And I was getting up there, well, then the sink got in the way. So I took it off the wall and took it to a place and had it refinished. So it's all complete, installed, it works, and it looks good, and it's really very useful thing to have, because it's not too big, it's not too small, but that side piece on the left, you can set some things there, you can let it drain, and also I have a type of faucet, you can put a hose on there if you need to, and it's just really convenient. But anyway, the next thing is you can see the brick, I wrapped it around the corner on this end and also the other end of the wall. And the main reason I did that is because I wanted to get that mortar joint in the very corner to run it the entire length. So I just wrapped around 1 or 2 bricks depending upon the course on both ends, and so each of these walls is ready to go once I get on it. And on this end, I've added this wall. It's a freestanding wall. There's 2 posts that go to the ceiling to support it. They're tied into the rafters. And I did this because I wanted to be able to set equipment on this side of the wall and other things on the other side of the wall, and have outlets. I didn't want to have outlets that come down from the ceiling, because you'd have to add the conduit and have them hanging down, and I didn't want to do that. So I put this wall in. There's just going to be this opening to it. There's not going to be a door on it. And then this is the breaker panel wall again. And you can see the power comes from the attic area down to the breaker panel. The reason this newspaper's on here is because when I had to get this installed long before I started working on this garage area, and I didn't paint the conduit. And then after I got things going, well, then I started to paint it, and I'm going to have to probably take that all down when I do the brick on the wall. So I got going, and then I kind of stopped because I'm not going to put the final coats on there. Like I said, the finish that's on the conduit is about a 3-step process. So you can't, when you scratch it, you can't easily go back to step 1 and then add step 2 and so on. So I kind of stopped right there, but that's why the paper's on there. But you can see, again, the wires going in the wire chase, going in their various directions. And then here's an example of the switch. This is for the lights in here. And so the same thing, you just drill a hole in the bottom of the wire chase, add the conduit. And the nice thing about this, another aspect of it, is if you want all these to be like at 48 inches off the floor, then you just have to kind of cut this conduit, measure it, do the best you can, and you know, maybe have to trim it a little bit more or whatever, but you get the junction box or the outlet or the switch box, whatever you're doing, you get it at the height you want, and then you measure that conduit, and then you can just cut every other one that you want to be at 48 inches or whatever height. And you know, it's not difficult. You don't have to figure everything out each and every time. And then here's the radiant tube heater. It makes this turn, and there's the furnace. And the furnace needs electricity to it. So here's another example. I put the metal up there because I didn't want to have to put the conduit and the outlet box up temporarily and then take it down. So I put the metal there. I supported the box, screwed it into a stud behind the metal. And then, you know, you just, the same thing, you drill a hole in the top, have the conduit going up, and add the wire. I tap into this junction box, so it makes it easy if I want to use that circuit to run them wherever else I need to. And also in here I have the baseboard finished for both walls. And then here's another example. For this central vac system, I needed an outlet. So I just went up to the wire chase, drilled a hole in the bottom, brought it down, cut the conduit to the same length as the switches over there, and there you go. Here's another example going up, and this is supplying the power to this row of lights in the kind of the front of the garage. You can see I don't have the wire chase going all the way around yet, but I will. It'll go to the door, and then, but that's all the further it'll go. And then in between the doors, I've added this piece here. I just don't have the front on it yet. For this wall, I'm going to have the wire chase that goes between the two doors. And the way I'm going to get power to it is here's the conduit for this row of lights. And I just added a box. And that wire hanging down is going to go inside the white conduit. It goes over to the wall. And I'm going to this will be done after the brick is up, and then from the ceiling down will be that brownish conduit, and the wire will go down to it, and it'll tie into the wire chase, and then I can drop down from it to have outlets in there when I get this all cleaned out and organized. And then over here you can see the other tube heater, but also in this corner there's the garage door opener and this furnace. And because it was going to be a while before I had this wire chase and everything on this wall, I chose to just have this conduit come a little further and add the outlets on either, so that either one of these could plug into it. There's the one for the furnace and the one for the garage door opener. So since they're close to the ceiling, it's not a big deal, and that's the way that I chose to do that. So there's a lot of flexibility with this wire chase, and I just didn't want to be messing with conduit up on the ceiling any more than I had to. And then here's my 911. I bought this a little over a year ago, and shortly after I got it, it started having engine problems. It would just kind of conk out, sputter and everything. So I've been doing various things to fix it. There's not a Porsche mechanic around here, and this thing kind of leaves you stranded randomly. So I've been investigating the things on the various forums. There are 3 sensors that I'm going to, I've seen the wiring to them, and it's cracked and everything. I really don't think that's the problem, but I'm going to do a video on getting that done because I didn't find that information readily available. So this will be one of the upcoming videos. It's, again, the theme of Sharpsville Garage is do it yourself. So automotive, renovation, various things. So here's the last wall. It was, it's adjacent to the brick. So I have this perpendicular wall sticking out. You notice I don't have it going all the way up to the wire chase. I do over here. It goes all the way up. But over here it doesn't, because on this side of the wall I plan on putting an air compressor and maybe a dust collection system, and then I can run the lines above the wall and not have to end up drilling through it. And the brick is going to go all the way around all the exterior walls, so it'll wrap around this wall here. And then one thing I forgot I wanted to show is, you'll notice that there's a gap between the brick and the concrete baseboard. I was told by a mason that you probably shouldn't add or put the brick right down on top of this baseboard, because as the wall and the floor move independently, it could force, the concrete baseboard could force up on the brick and pop them off anywhere along here. So I put a gap. That's what he suggested, and it made sense to me. And then I was thinking, well, I wanted to fill the gap because I don't want any sparks to go into that gap. I know it's kind of remote, but you know, what's behind the brick is this OSB. So I investigated various things, and I didn't want it to stand out, and I didn't want to spend like a fortune to do it. So what I have here is that, and I'll show you what that is. It's this filler rod or backer rod. It's kind of a styrofoamy, plastic, rubbery stuff. You can find it in any of the home improvement stores. It's just to fill gaps. And I've used it in the house, in the living area, because this building is concrete floors. And so I put it in these expansion joints, and then I filled it with a caulk-like stuff that's made for concrete, so that you don't have to just because that stuff is not very cheap, and you don't have to just fill the whole crack. So you put this backer rod down in cracks. Maybe it's for weather stripping, that kind of thing, but that's what I used it for before, and it worked great. So I was familiar with this, and so what I did is painted some aluminum foil. I got it as close to the concrete and mortar as I could, and then you can see I have them in about 2-foot sections, and so I just tear off a piece of that's the length of the foil. I cut the foil 1 3/4 inches wide, wrap it around that filler or backer rod, and then put it in the gap right there. So it is metallic. I suppose a spark or something that comes off of welding, if it does sit there on the foil, it could burn through, but that's the way I chose to do it for now. If I find a better way, then I can easily take this out. It just pulls out. I didn't want to use caulk because it is a little bit spongy, but I thought that with it stuck to the wall and everything, I didn't know how much it would give. And this will definitely give. So this is the way I chose to start off with. I think that's about it in here. Well, that's it for the first video. I hope you liked what you saw, and that you'll stop back by and watch my other videos. And I hope you like being part of history for the first video on the Sharpsville Garage channel. Please hit like and subscribe if you would. And also in the comments, let me know where you're watching this video from, because, I've heard that this internet thing is going to be big one day. Maybe you've heard that too. And I'd just like to see how far this video is reaching. So we'll see you on the next video. Take care.